What's up, guys? So, with 10.1, we're gonna get these new Shadow Flame quests that you use to upgrade item level, similar to infusions, and they require enchanting materials, which might mean that we're gonna need a lot more enchanting materials in 10.1 than we do now. So, is it a good idea to invest in enchanting materials? That's what we're gonna talk about today. So, this is something that historically sometimes you can make a huge amount of gold investing for a new patch. Sometimes you don't. So we're going to talk about the things you need to consider and then try to come up with an idea of if this is a good idea or not. So that's the plan. So obviously, why would you do this? And what's the thing? In general, you're going to look for items that are going to be needed more of in a new patch. And here we have new recipes that you use to craft these item level increasing items that literally everyone wants. So yeah, I mean, obviously people are gonna need this. They're gonna send crafting orders for this because they're gonna want item level 447 gear and item level 437 gear when they can't do the 447 yet, or even item level 408 gear, catch-up gear potentially. So you can be fairly certain that people are gonna want these crafts, and thus they're gonna need these materials. But that's not enough, right? That's not enough. Because the question we're trying to answer, and what we really need to figure out is this going to be enough to drive the price up so that we can profit from buying these items? Now, there are some questions you need to think about, or some factors. Number one, how many of these materials are currently available? Number two, how much stock do other players have, or how much stock will they have by the time the patch rolls around? How many materials will the player base need? Like how fast are people going to actually buy these once the patch is out? And are there any bottlenecks in terms of obtaining the recipe? Those are some of the things that we need to consider. There might be more factors at play as well, and we don't know all of these, so we're just going to go through them one by one. Number one is the materials usage. Like what do you need? How many do you need? Or rather, how much is available for sale right now? So I checked on EU how much is for sale for these three materials. Right now there's 937,000 chromatic dust, it's 104,000 vibrant shards, and 37,000 resonant crystals. And okay, is that a lot? Is that nothing? I don't know. So we're going to compare that to how much this recipe right here, the Enchanted Aspects Shadow Flame Crest. How many of these can we craft with the currently available materials on EU? And the conclusion is that right now there's enough chromatic dust and resonant crystals for about 9,300 Enchanted Aspect Shadow Flame Crests, and there's enough vibrant shards for about 5,000. So that might sound like a lot. But 5,000 players. That's 5,000 characters, and you've used all up just on their first item. Everything available on the auction house right now. So obviously that indicates that there's the possibility here for this to go up. And there's not really that much like dust or shards that's being generated in a given week. Most characters will maybe get one upgrade a week. And at 34% inspiration for the ring enchants, for instance, you're looking at something like 15 chromatic dust and 10 vibrant shards on average used per week. Weapons take a little bit more, and the resonant crystals are up to like 12 resonant crystals per week per character. But with the Enchanted Shadow Flame, you're looking at 4 resonant crystals, 100 dust, and 20 vibrant shards per week, or whenever we unlock the sparks of Shadow Flame. So this indicates that this has potential. There's not that much volume available. But then the next part, what will other players do? And that's impossible to know. How many enchanting materials do other players have? Are there people with guild banks full of resonant crystals? I'm not the only one who's looking at these recipes and thinking, this might be something worth investing in. There's probably already hundreds of goblins who have started buying these materials. Whether to craft with them themselves or because they expect the price to go up. This has already happened, because as soon as this was on the PTR, then people noticed and people are going to be thinking about this. This is not a particularly hard idea to come up with. And on top of that, there's multiple ways to generate all of these materials. You can even mass craft resonant crystals if you have the right If you have the right spec with draconic disenchantment, you can get resonant crystals from disenchanting weapons. So all of these can to some degree be mass crafted essentially. So that is just completely up in the air, and that's the biggest unknown. That's always is by far the largest risk with investing. And I think the big question is like how quickly, how much can people generate from now until the patch? How much are they gonna bother stocking versus not? Sometimes it's more clear that like players aren't going to be able to stock enough, or something like that. But this time around, it's very uncertain in my opinion. Another question is, of course, how quickly will players buy these infusions? So obviously, to craft a Shadowlands Season 2 item, you're going to need a Spark of Shadow Flame. It's a new optional reagent. The Sparks of Inspiration and Spark of Shadow Flame is now an optional reagent that you use when crafting. You set it. So if I go to one of the epic ones, we should be able to find the here. You set the Spark of Ingenuity, which makes it a Season 1 item, and then you use the Spark of Shadow Flame, then it's going to be a Season 2 item. With a higher base item level, higher everything. And you need it to be a Spark of Shadow Flame item for you to use the new infusions on. So the question is, how quickly are we going to get Sparks of Shadow Flame? I'm going to guess on a similar unlock schedule to Sparks of Inspiration. Maybe we get them weekly rather than every 2 weeks. But we're definitely going to see a cyclical market here where it's going to be, okay, new Spark, people need tons of these. Then maybe if we don't get a new Spark on the next reset, then it's going to be slower. And it's going to maybe spike up a little bit with the next Spark of Shadow Flame. But we don't know. The last factor that's going to have an effect is this one. We hover over recipe unlearned. Literally nothing happens. We don't know where the recipes are obtained from. If this is something that you can't get week 1, if you have to get it week 3, week 2, if it's time gated, rep gated, we don't know. That's obviously going to have an effect, and that's going to depend. That's going to essentially say when is the big demand going to come in. As soon as this recipe is available, that's when people are going to start buying. So if this is like 2 weeks into the patch, maybe people are going to try to sell materials at the beginning of the patch. We see supply increase, prices go down. There's many different scenarios that can happen. So is it a good idea to do this? Honestly, I'm not like super feeling it, but if you can do any of the disenchanting shuffles profitably right now, that might be worth it. It might also be worth it to just set up a enchanter with a disenchanting specialization. Essentially, you need about 50 points to max out the most important parts, which is to get 10 points here and then 40 points in draconic disenchantment. That's essentially it. You don't really need anything else for disenchanting. So that's a way to something you can set up. Then you're ready. You might be able to do shuffles profitably right now, or you can do shuffles profitably when the patch rolls around, and you have flexibility essentially. So yeah, guys, that's it. That's the thing. Now I should say, for any investment, this insanely, or rather, this is relatively risky if you're going to buy any large quantities of materials. And if you're going to do it, don't rely on just this video, my analysis. Take a look at prices, at quantities on your region, and come up with an idea about what you think you can sell these items for, or what you think the price is gonna do. And well, more importantly than anything else, don't invest more gold than you're willing to lose. Worst case, you get an expensive lesson. Best case, you make a good amount of gold. Good luck, guys.